Um, Now, you said something that was the right thing to say. You didn't know it was coming in. You talked about the size of heaven and the size of things related to God. And you talked about the new Jerusalem, the new earth is going to be so much bigger than ours. Okay, so I got to studying this, and I've seen this before I got back to it. So I'm going to ask you this because I know you've seen the new Jerusalem. I want to ask you about it. So in Revelation 21:16, it says this: the city was laid out like a square. As long as it is wide, he measured the city with the rod and found it to be 12,000 stadia in length, as wide and high as it is long. So I researched what these stadia are. So here's what it really, really is. The New Jerusalem on this earth is 1,400 and some miles wide, 1,400 and some miles uh, long, and 1,400 and some miles high, which is the height of some of our satellites. In other words, I really, then I Googled it and I double checked and triple checked. In other words,
you were
if you look at the continental United States and you take 60% of our landmass of the United States, that's the size of Jerusalem approximately.
That's right.
Isn't that amazing? So tell me more about it, and how could it be? I mean, of course, again, because God said, what do you see 1,400 miles in the sky? It's like, why would you even need to go high if you've got the earth? I mean, what have you seen?
Oh, because number one of the amount of the many people who will live. We're talking about the new earth right now,
Yeah.
because the new earth is where that will be established. That is like God's, not just God's new home. He calls it our new home. So the new earth, it will be all of our home, and that's what we'll call it. This is home. And I tell people it can exist only because of the greatness and how huge the new earth is. I mean, the scope of it. And I'm sure it's bigger than even our galaxy. It could probably be half the size of the whole cosmos. It is so huge that it can, of course, sustain, and nothing's going to go upside down or something because it's so high. But I kept telling people it is big. The new Jerusalem, the walls are beautiful. The gates on it are always open. There's never any shut gates. The gates will never be shut on the new earth of the city. They probably will call it the city of God or the New Jerusalem, whatever anybody else calls it. That's just a city. I have to tell you that as big as that thing is, it's only a city.
Yeah.
There's many cities in the new earth, many cities and places to go visit, do things on the new earth. And that's one of the reasons why it is so big. And there's no sun or moon. It's lit with his glory. So it's spectacular.
Wow.
Light shoots from the ground. It shoots from everywhere. All of the trees have light in them. And there's no darkness on it. There's no shadows, really. If the light comes from the ground, there's not going to be shadows. And people are actually quite excited about that when they walk around heaven now. There's not shadows because the light, the glory comes from the very core of heaven, which is a world. It is a world. And all these worlds were made after the likeness of that. And so it's just huge. All I could think of was how big it was. And it was so high up. But you have to understand, there are some angels. There are angels that are several thousand feet high.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and they're in
That's just
heaven
crazy.
now. They're in heaven now. They're in heaven now. You have to remember that in the very last days, there will be an angel that stands with 1 foot in the middle of the ocean and 1 foot in the middle of the land. And they declare things in the last days. I believe it's in the book of Revelation. But there are angels that high right now. Even just some of the hosts are like 150, 200 feet high. And their dwellings they have, I call it their barracks. It doesn't look like what you would imagine barracks here.
Yeah.
But even the army of heaven has their own area, defined area that they live in, and they run their missions on or their assignments on from that place. Michael's headquarters is a massive castle-like structure. Also, it is like not shroud is not a good word. I guess clouds of glory, but it's the dark glory. People don't understand. It says, God says, I have myself in my dark clouds of glory, only because they're not white clouds. these clouds are like a camouflage for him. I'm talking about the Father now. And it looks like 1,000,000 peacock feathers with eyes in them. And
Really?
that whole cloud, sometimes he'll surround himself with that. But Michael's headquarters, even like, I guess, the circumference of where you would normally have walls around a structure or an area, are these clouds of dark glory with these peacock feathers with living eyes in them. And that's what the purpose for that is. So just walking around heaven and seeing things in heaven, it helps you understand the scriptures, some of the scriptures. But that New Jerusalem is really amazing. Very beautiful, powerful. That's where the throne will be. The throne room will be there, and other things will be there. But there's so many other things to do and see on the new earth, which is massive. It's just massive compared. I mean, there's no planet out there that's bigger than that's going to be the new earth. It's beautiful.
Wow. I mean, it's like, and I'm trying to figure out, and I don't know if your eyeballs in the spirit could see, because the Empire State Building, then they made the Twin Towers, and then the new Freedom Tower that took place, and then in Dubai and some of these places, they've got the tallest buildings now on Earth, and there are probably 100 and some floors, and but still, you're like 1,000 and some feet up. But this city goes 1,400 miles up.
Yeah.
It doesn't say the sky above it. Is that it says the city dimensions are. So is there anything more you can tell about what's up there in the sky?
And it's literally sitting on the new earth. It literally will come down. And he says, and I do know if the Father had said to me, don't worry about when everything starts to be taken apart and then put back together. He'll keep you safe. Because a lot of people go, well, if this is gone, where are we going to be between there and the new earth? Well, he does impeccably everything ready. He himself, when it's ready for things he's going to do, it's going to be ready. No one's going to have to worry about being left out or lost or something like that. Because some people, they say these things to me. I'm like, no, he's not going. He knows where every hair on your head is. He's going to know where you are, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And you're not, it's going to float around somewhere. He will have a place for you. But he's going to make the new earth and put all of us on it first. So we will be on the new earth. And then he will climb on this new Jerusalem city and come down out of the heavens. And it will sit literally on the earth. And it will be that high. It will be that high. Because the earth will be so massive. It's not going to be. And you can imagine that shows you right there how big the new earth is going to be.
Yeah.
Something that many miles high can sit there perfectly because he made them perfectly. And so it's just you're in awe of seeing it. But the thing that you know the most is those gates are always going to be open. People will live all over the new earth. It'll have one landmass and an ocean. The ocean will always exist. The seas will not. The seas separate land masses.
Yeah.
This is what he told me. The seas separate. The ocean is the biggest body of water on this earth. And yet there's rivers that run off of it, rivers that run off of things. And the land masses, when the land was broken up, the original earth, when he made it, had one land mass and it had an ocean. But when that whole thing happened in the earth, then later on, verse 2, there's a mess going on, not a mess, but it's hidden under the total water. You can't even see the earth. Between 1 and 2 are probably millions of years, literally millions of years of life here on this earth. And when God got ready to remake it, and when he put it back together, and he said, replenish the earth, and he left the land masses separated. All he did was take the water off of everything, and then he began to build up the land again, and then he put the greenery and the fish, he did all that. And then he made man on the 6th day. And then of course, he did make the sun and the moon in verse 2. Verse 1, he didn't need the sun and the moon. In the beginning was when he made it the first time, people. You'll find that out when you go to heaven. You get to go see how he did all that and watch all that happen. But this new earth will be so much bigger than the one we're on now. So
on that, do you happen to know, Kat, if because I know in heaven, I think you said sometimes you can think yourself in a place or walk through a portal and you're another side of heaven. Will that still exist, that ability once you go into new earth, or are you more now you're in your flesh, but it's glorified body?
You can do the same thing. You'll be able to do the same thing you did before for transportation around the way you do it around heaven. You'll be able to do that on the new earth.
Okay. Okay. So we don't know if there'll be even the necessity, or let's have a group. Let's all go somewhere and take a flight from one end of the city for a couple hours. In today's travel, it would take you 2 or 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours to get to 1,500 miles
Yes.
on the one city. Well, that where have you seen planes, or are they simply not necessary? Maybe you haven't seen
I
it.
see planes because people like to have them, and some are piloted by you.
Okay.
Most people get a Star Cruiser, and they're called Star Cruisers. So none of that was made up by Star Trek or Star Wars. Okay,
Wow.
that was always in heaven first, and it runs on light. And they will still have them on the new earth. That'll still be a way. People love to be able to do that. There's going to be trains, but not trains like we have here. You will step into beams of light. It will still take you around to the other side of on the new earth. And there's
Yeah.
probably going to be even more ways of transportation on the new earth than there even is in heaven. Right now, you can travel on light, on bands of the rainbow. You can travel through star cruisers. They have things that can take whole groups, like I call them, he calls them MMs, like a mobile mansion type thing, but it's like a bus, but it goes in the air, not on the ground. A lot of
Nice.
things in heaven go in the air. So I would imagine, yes, you'll have flesh, but that flesh will be glorified. It'll be glorified. You'll be supernatural at that time, really supernatural at that time. And so I'm sure that will open up even more things for you. You can go visit other planets without a ship, even to go to those other planets. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
There'll be a new heavens, and heavens is like planets. It's going to be a new whole planet system and everything put out. Some will be for certain things to do on just those planets, and you'll go there for like vacation instead of just stay on
Yeah.
the.
Well, Kat, will people be on the new earth inventing things? Will technologies be being invented, or is that stuff all invented? Well,
No, I have to absolutely, the Father being the great creator with his Son, Jesus Christ. He and the Word made everything that ever was made. The Father did it by speaking, and then the Word made it. We will more and more be able to create things, places, and things like that. I know for a fact he told me that we would. He'll send us like to a planet. Now we can't create people. We're not going to create other things like that. But
right.
places to go for people to enjoy and do things, you get to use your creativity. I'm saying not building something taking 10 years, but taking probably like, I don't know. I don't know if there's minutes or hours or something like that, but it would be so much quicker to
Wow.
create, design things and create things and put them places.